Well, ever since she learned how to talk, Charlotte Pence has been a storyteller. Her parents still remember her sitting in the grass outside their house and telling a story to a captive audience of stuffed animals and dolls. And now, nearly 20 years later, she's telling the story of her family and their road to Washington, D.C.
Best-selling author and daughter of the Vice President of the United States, Charlotte Pence hasn't lived an ordinary life. She became part of a political family while in elementary school and traveled on the Trump-Pence campaign trail after graduating college. In her book, Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father, Charlotte explains what it's like being part of the second family and the influence that her relationship with her father has made in her life.
Well, Charlotte Pence is here with us now, and we welcome you to the program. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
New book out, Where You Go. You were 7 when you first imagined all of this with your animals and your dolls. Did you ever think that your family's journey would take you where you've gone?
No, honestly, no, we didn't. And I think, we've just been so blessed to have such amazing experiences, and to be able to do it together and to be able to write about it was really a privilege for me, for sure.
And writing's been something that you've just enjoyed and been good at and recognized for years. Your last bestseller received some criticism, and it was about your bunny. What do you think happened with that?
Yeah, there was a kind of a parody book put out about it that also gave money to charity, and my mom and I wrote a book about my real bunny, who he follows my dad along in a typical day with the vice president in the book. And so it was just a fun project to do together, and so we were surprised by the reaction, but at the end of the day, it's both are giving to charity, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, today, politics is kind of a blood sport, if you will. Your dad was first elected to Congress when you were 7. Did he prepare you in any way for what entering that political arena was going to be like?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I talk about in the book is that my dad, he always used to tell us when we would see protesters or when we would see, signs outside our house, when he was getting negative press, he'd always say, that's what freedom looks like. He kind of had this saying he always said. And he still does to this day. When he sees protesters at events, he always says, that's what freedom sounds like, that's what freedom looks like. And I think that has to do with, the media and just public life. I think that you have to be kind of open to criticism and ready for it.
I'd appreciate the freedom that is there for all of us. So then your dad was elected governor, and he talked to you at that point and said something meaningful about change. Share that with us.
Yeah. The night my dad was elected to be governor of Indiana, that was another big time of transition for us. And the book really, without knowing it, when I was writing it, I was really writing about transition, which I think and I hope everybody can learn something from. Our family's been through a lot of different transitions together. And so the night he was elected, we were up watching TV, and I remember him going to bed, and he just looked at me and said, everything has changed and nothing has changed. And what he meant by that was, we have this completely new life, this is going to be, upside down and totally different. But at the same time, we're still a family, and our faith in our family is still going to be the most important thing to us.
And one of the things in your family that's always been important is family dinner.
Yes.
And he had some wise counsel about that as well, right?
Yes.
You work all day, and then you go home for dinner.
Yeah, I actually got him a gift a couple years ago that just was a plaque that had this quote from him on it that makes its way into the book that says, do your best and go home for dinner. And that's kind of how he lived his life and lived his career in politics. He was really home for dinner almost every night, and that was a lot.
That's amazing.
It was amazing, yeah. And a lot of that reason was because we lived in right outside Washington, D.C., and so he was kind of able to really be a part of our life growing up.
Were those transitions hard for you? Because they happened as you were growing up, living in this place, living in that place, changing, seeing the change in your parents' lives. How did you weather all of that well?
Yeah, I think that our family is just such a close unit. I think that really helped. We kind of call ourselves a circle, and we say that once you're on the inside of the circle, you're never on the outside. And so we just kind of kept that circle very close and very tight during the campaign trail and just kept communication up.
Your book is entitled Where You Go, and you start out talking about a famous quote from the Book of Ruth.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about why that's significant to you.
Yeah, there were a couple different titles I was kind of playing around with. One of them was one of the chapter titles, and so they did make their way into the book in some way. But one day it just kind of hit me that this verse, Ruth 1:16, just kind of sums up my family and how we live our life. It's when Ruth's mother-in-law is telling Naomi, or Naomi is telling Ruth that she should leave her after her husband has died. And Ruth tells her, I'm not going to leave you. And she says, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people and your God will be my God. And I think that's just kind of how our family operates, that we go with one another into the adventures, even when it's hard and even when it's messy and there's a lot of transition to figure out.
A lot of that difficulty and transition and challenge has come from your dad's role, the role that he's been called to in his life. But the really stable person in that whole venture has been your mom. Talk about the influence she's been in your life.
Oh, yes, absolutely. My mom is awesome, and I had dedicate a couple chapters to her, and just what I've learned from her when I was actually on the campaign trail in the summer of 2016. I was kind of her personal assistant. She didn't have one, and so I was kind of running her schedule a little bit and helping her out, and I just got to learn so much about leadership from her and how to treat your staff kindly and how to treat everybody kindly and to really stand up for people and encourage them to stand up for themselves. And so, yeah, my mom is absolutely just a rock in our family.
Yeah. You talk about where you go and the family hanging tightly together. Where is home for you with all the transitions that you've had?
That's a good question.
Where your stuff is, huh?
Yeah, home is where our family is together. And growing up, that was really true. And even when my dad was governor, you know, we would spend holidays sometimes in different states and different areas. We were in Israel one year, which I talk about in the book. And so, you know, we always just kind of realized that our home was where we were with each other. And I think that has to do with being physically together, but it also is just a mental state of mind and just keeping talking. With
all that your family means to you, another question is, how do you deal with the unfair criticism of people you love so much?
Yeah, you know, it's difficult as a daughter. I think when you see things that are, you know, said about somebody that you love, that you don't necessarily, you know, aren't true. And so as an American, though, I think, you know, it makes me proud because it means, like I said, that we live in a country where people can speak out against their elected leaders. And that's a good thing, and that's not true everywhere in the world.
A lot of wisdom. The book is called Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father, written by Charlotte Pence. And I think you'd really enjoy it. It's available in stores nationwide. Thank you for being with us. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much.